Hi, I'm Joan Kautz with Ironstone Vineyards, and I wanted to welcome you at Luca's to introduce you to my family's wines and our winery, and Ironstone Vineyards, of course. Just to give you a little bit of history, quick history about how we came to become in the wine business, is it was my grandparents on my father's side that came over from Europe, and they were following the American dream, and they were basically migrant farm workers, and they were following the work and ended up in California. They were quite poor at that time, came with basically nothing, and were able to save up enough money to buy a small parcel of land in Lodi, and so had just a very typical family farm. My father took over when he was just graduating high school because unfortunately his dad passed away, and so he took over what they were doing there. He started expanding it into other crops, or crops in general, like tomatoes and corn and bell peppers, all sorts of commodities, and eventually decided he wanted to plant more permanent crops. And he planted sweet cherries and grew sweet cherries for a long time. And what he learned is that if you went north of Sacramento or south of Stockton, you couldn't grow sweet cherries. And that's because Lodi has a very unique microclimate. And in that climate, and when you look at California, there's one break in California, and that's the San Francisco Bay. And so what we have in Lodi in summers, we get our nice warm 90+ degree days, and then the evenings we'll get breezes that come through, coming off of the Pacific Ocean over the Carquinez Strait, and cooling off Lodi. So the evenings will drop into the 50s and 60s actually. And so with that, it really allowed, the sweet cherries to thrive. And he thought with that, you know what, I bet I could plant wine grapes. And so in 1968, my parents decided they were going to plant wine grapes in Lodi. They asked the advisors at that time, what should we plant? They suggested, okay, maybe Tokay and Mission, and Zinfandel obviously grew in Lodi already. So my parents planted Chardonnay, Merlot, and Cabernet. They thought he was crazy, and it has proved to be okay, because today Lodi is the largest producer of many different varietals. It's about 20% of the state's production, more than Napa and Sonoma combined. And, vineyards have been thriving here now. And so for a long time, we were selling our grapes to other wineries. And then in about 1982, one of the winemakers that was buying our grapes, said that he would put up a few cases of wine for us. And that changed. The next year it grew and it grew until my parents decided, we want to do this for ourselves. We love wine. We'd love to have our own brand. And so they said, okay, we're going to build a winery. We elected, even though we're based in Lodi, which is 90 miles east of San Francisco, we elected to build the winery, the Ironstone Winery, in a town called Murphy's, which is the heart of the gold rush. And the reason for that, it was my grandfather's property on my mother's side. So we grew up spending time in Murphy's, in that whole area, and it's just beautiful. And so they first initially decided they wanted to build a winery that had a hospitality center, culinary center. They wanted to be very family oriented. So there is all of that. There's an outdoor amphitheater. We do great summer concerts, anywhere from 3,000 to 7,500 people at a concert, and bands like Old Dominion and Kelly Clarkson's been there, Carrie Underwood's been there, the Doobie Brothers, Steve Miller Band, all sorts of genres. And they're a ton of fun. There's also 14.5 acres of landscaped gardens and a couple of lakes there as well. So you can stroll throughout the gardens, enjoying wine and everything. There's the Alhambra Music Room, which has a pipe organ that used to show the old black and white movies. So we still do that. We'll have pizza and silent movie night. All sorts of events like that throughout the year. There's of course a tasting room and a deli, and we have a museum area. We have a jewelry shop there. It's not your unique, your normal winery. There's so many different parts to it. We actually, as I mentioned, we're in the heart of the gold rush. in Murphy's and Calaveras County in the Sierra Foothills. And we have the world's largest gold piece on display. It's 44 pounds worth of gold. So it stands about 2.5 wine bottles tall and about 4.5, 5 bottles wide. It's a gold leaf crystalline specimen, and it's absolutely incredible. It's in a bank vault at the winery, so it's on display. It was found 15 miles from the property. And you know, the winery in March and April, it's a beautiful time to come up and see. We initially planted about 20 tons of daffodils, and now there's more, and it's just solid daffodils, which are the introduction to, you know, spring and summer and fresh, which goes along with our obsession wine. You'll find a daffodil on those bottles. And today we are talking about our reserves Chardonnay specifically. This Chardonnay is estate grown. It came off of the vineyard directly adjacent to the winery. And this vineyard, I mean, it has a lot of like big red soils and a lot of calcium in there, very mineral oriented. And you find that mineral component in these wines. This vintage of Chardonnay was harvested early September. It went through whole cluster press, and then it was surly aged for about 4 months, and then went through malolactic fermentation. And after that, it was aged in barrel for about a year. So, and this is Max, who's joining us today. He's my little boy. So it was aged for about a year, and in new French oak. And the style of it is, like I said, you get a lot of that mineral character. You'll get some vanilla, some toffee, some tropical fruits to it. It's got a nice balance. It's not overpowered in oak, but just has a nice intricate balance of oak to it. And it kind of goes along with all of our reserve wines, whether it's the Reserve Cabernet Franc or the Meritage or the Cabernet Sauvignon, or our Zinfandels, which the Zinfandels are actually Lodi appellation. And you know, one vineyard is between 60 and 80 years old. It comes actually from a couple different vineyards. And then great wines, really enjoyable. But I really would like to toast you. I would like to welcome you to come to California. You know, as things start to open up more, we hope to, you know, do our concert series again. We hope to have everything fully going and, you know, kind of get back to, you know, what we all enjoy and our passion for life, for food, for wine and enjoyment and pleasure and everything. And so I really hope that, you know, one day you'll come out and visit us in Murphy's at Ironstone. And in the meantime, you can take a little California sunshine with you in a bottle and enjoy. So on that note, cheers, and I hope to see you.